Hello, everyone. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, and our fingers are crossed that we can continue on. We are lucky to have Danielle. Is it Renov or Renov?
Renov.
Renov. Okay. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast. Many of you know me. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and frustrated baker. Coming to you live from Jerusalem today is Danielle Renov of Peas, Love, and Carrots Community. I can't believe it. It's a community. It started off a little bit differently. There are tens of thousands of followers of Danielle's, and she is known for her trusted recipes, cooking tutorials, lifestyle tips, and inspirational ideas for the kitchen, home, and family. Her just released book, get this, 30 Days, has sold 43,000 copies, and the book is called Peas, Love, and Carrots. 43,000 copies. It's in its fifth printing. Amazon has it #1 as the best Mideastern cookbook and best food and wine. I feel very privileged to have you here, Danielle. And a lot of her book is inspired by her Sephardic and Ashkenazi roots. Shalom Aleichem, Danielle.
Shalom Aleichem. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I appreciate it with Rosh Hashanah, the eve of Rosh Hashanah, and taking the time out.
It's
When
looming.
did
It's
this
looming.
when did this phenomena of peas, love, and carrots start? What was the inspiration, or how did it start? You'll see me look off to my computer a little bit because I want to see if we're getting any questions coming in.
Oh, no problem. Basically, it started, Peas, Love, and Carrots started as an Instagram account about this Hanukkah will actually be 4 years. It's crazy. And it just started off sort of as like a hobby, a way for me to sort of get out of a rut in the kitchen. I had all little kids at the time. My husband was traveling a lot, so I was alone with the kids most of the time. And I really wanted, I was like just in this like making breakfast, making lunch, making dinner rut. And like I love the kitchen. I love to cook. I love to be creative. I grew up in a very, very, very food centric household. My mother's Moroccan, so I spent a lot of time in the kitchen growing up around really good food. And I was like, you know what? I'll just post what I'm making for dinner every night. Like maybe that will give other people inspiration. And in turn, it like inspired me. And Instagram has just kind of been this place where like I feed off my community and my community feeds off me, and it's completely symbiotic. And we come up with this just amazing food all the time. And finally, we wrote a cookbook.
I'm telling you, it's gorgeous. I've been promoting it way before we got together here. Carrie had sent it to me. Peas, Love, and
Thank you.
Carrots. It is, I covet cookbooks, and this one is
Really?
gorgeous. So I think
Thank
it's 150 photographs,
Yes.
185 photographs, 250 recipes.
Yes.
When you
Over.
open the book, you have a page there. It says 86 things you should know. Wow, you
Right.
really covered it. Um, did you come up with anything more?
You know what? I basically, at some point a publisher sort of gives you like a limit, like, okay, Danielle, you've reached your page limit. You can't go above and beyond. So a lot of those 86 things were like their own pages. It was like a 600-page book. And they were like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So I was like, oh, okay, fine, no problem. So I had to like rethink what I was doing. And I was like, I can't just leave this information out. I was like, you know what? I'll condense it. I won't give a whole backstory. Let me just go for it and just tell them straight up what I'm thinking off the top of my head. No whipped cream. I'm not going to cover it, not going to make it look pretty. Just going to tell them how it is, these things that I'm thinking. It actually came out to 88, but like the number 88 had no significance to me. So I was like, you know what? I got to bring this down to 86 because like I was born in 1986. So I was like, I can work with that number. So I don't even remember which two I took off, but I eliminated two. And we ended up with these 86 things that I want you to know about cooking and being, life in general. And I love it. I think it's my favorite page of the whole book.
Well, this book is good for beginners, for established cooks like myself. And I looked at these 86 things and I'm going, damn right. Yep. Yep. You know, from the little tip of a damp towel underneath your cutting board to
Yeah.
your aversion of, and we're going to get into this, your aversion to raisins and bananas.
Okay, listen, the bananas, I can't like, some people like them, some people don't. I just don't. You know, I know like 2020 has been the year of the banana bread, but like, what about all of us non-banana lovers? You leave us out. Every milkshake has a banana. Every gluten-free food has a banana. Like, what about all of us that don't like bananas? We need representation. So, you know, I had to put it out there. And on top of it, you know, I needed everybody else that doesn't like bananas to know, like, there is no recipe in this book that you have to skip over because none of them have bananas. And raisins are true. I mean, I mean, there's so many things wrong in 2020, but like raisins has sort of been neglected as being wrong for the past 2020 years, but really like raisins are just wrong. They're not right.
But what about dried cranberries?
No, craisins are fine. Craisins are fine. First of all, craisins can't become wine. So like nobody wasted the wine by making craisins. You know what I'm saying? We wasted a little bit of cranberry juice. That's fine. That's fine. Only half the population really needs the cranberry juice. So we're fine with that. But like,
well, let me just say, if people are tuning in right now, we were a little late because of technical difficulties. This is Danielle Renov of Peas, Love, and Carrots, the cookbook. And it is peas, Peas, Love, the letter N, carrots, just as you see it. So if you want to find the book, anything, her recipes, her YouTube, everything, just Peas, Love, N, carrots. Okay, what exactly is Israeli cuisine versus Moroccan cuisine? You do a hybrid of Ashkenazi and Sephardic. Can you fill us in a little bit more?
Israeli cuisine is really not necessarily identifiable, and there are many in this world, many Israelis even, that will argue that Israeli cuisine doesn't in fact actually exist. I think we are getting closer to a place where Israeli food exists, but that's not, you know, what we're debating here. Israeli food, or what we think of as Israeli food, is really a melting pot of all of the countries that surround Israel and all of the immigrants that came to Israel. So, you know, it's really a melting pot of the best of Lebanese food and Syrian food and Iraqi food and Turkish food and Iranian food and Persian food. Like, just, it's so delicious. Egyptian food, it all comes together sort of in this like center place of Israeli cuisine. And plus you bring in all the Eastern European Jews that came after the war and all the recent Jewish immigrants that came from Russia and America and South America and things like that. And then all of a sudden you have what we now know as Israeli cuisine, whereas Moroccan cuisine is not even really Middle Eastern. Morocco is really the northern tip of Morocco. It touches the southern tip of Spain. So Morocco is really, Moroccan cuisine is really heavily influenced by Spanish cuisine, by the spice trade that used to run through Africa, by other African cultures that, you know, migrated or lived near and around Morocco. So they're not really the same, but because so much of the Middle Eastern cuisine is dependent on spices, citrus, and the Mediterranean, Morocco is not actually on the Mediterranean, but very close by, but it is on the water. So, you know, there's a lot of that out of the sea influence. So the flavors do feel more familiar towards each other than, let's say, American cuisine versus Middle Eastern cuisine.
Well, I'm going to pull this up again because I don't know how clear it's coming through, but this is Moroccan chicken matzo ball soup.
Yes.
Yes. Stunning.
Thank you.
Stunning.
Thank you.
And
You know
you
what? We
use
got
it.
a lot of backlash. People did not want to let us use that cover as the cover of the book. I had to fight for it.
Why didn't they want you to use it?
Because, there's like all these rules in the world, not just in the food world, right? Like in any industry, there's like a set of like rules that you're supposed to live within. And when you break out of that box, people become very, very nervous. And, you're supposed to put a protein on the cover. You can't put a dessert on the cover. You shouldn't put fish on the cover. And there was no rule that you can't put a matzo ball on the cover, but nobody had ever done that before. So it made people uncomfortable, but I really pushed for it. And I explained to them that this recipe really defines me at Peas, Love, and Carrots. It really explains who I am. It's me in a bowl. You have the Ashkenaz matzo ball that represents my father. You have the Moroccan saffron in there. You have the Iraq liqueur that we deglazed it with, which is just genius. Like, why wasn't I using Iraq to deglaze my foods to begin with? I don't know, because Iraq is like, it's, an anise liqueur. It's so delicious. And just like fennel or anise, as you cook it, it gets sweeter and sweeter. It adds like the most amazing sweet acidity to the soup. And then you have the chickpeas, which are Moroccan and Middle Eastern. And, now I live in Israel. So we brought in the sumac from Israel and to represent the Middle East, and the radishes and all of these beautiful flavors. And that bowl really it's a melting pot of who I am and who the Peas, Love, and Carrots community is. And it had to be the cover. It had to be.
Well, you don't know much about me, but I used to work for a small spice company. And she
Really?
was known for her blends. And what I saw in this was a new spice blend I hadn't heard of, which is Liwei or Hawaii.
What? Hawaii.
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 Hawaii. And
Hawaii.
that
It's like that guttural sound, like that Arabic.
Hawash.
Hawaii. Like that.
Hawash. Okay.
Yeah, you have to look at it in the back of your throat.
I think I still have it, but and that was interesting because that's sort of it's sort of like it's not the same spices as Ras El Hanout,
Right.
but it's still Ras El Hanout means top of shop, so everybody made their own blend of this spice, and
Right.
it seems the same here. There's sort of four. Coriander, black pepper, cardamom. I'm trying to think of the fourth one, but then I saw some were using a couple different things in there. And so that's something that I'm going to make up. But that is used, for what I was reading, that is used for soups and stews, but there's also maybe another blend that's used for coffee.
Yeah, Hawaii's for coffee, which is so delicious. Some Hawaii's have cumin, some don't. Almost all of them have turmeric, and it's very, very, very delicious Hawaii's. And it pairs really well with like citrusy notes like lemon or limes, and very herbaceous notes. Like the spices really need the herbs to go with it. Cilantro, specifically is my favorite one, but obviously you can use what you like. And yeah, there's two kinds of Hawaii's. There's Hawaii's limarak, Hawaii's for soup or stew. And then there's Hawaii's for coffee, which is very traditional in the Middle East, to get like a little sprinkle canister to keep in a coffee shop. And you just sprinkle this spice mixture, which is more cardamom, cinnamon, a little bit of cloves, maybe some allspice, but not all the time cloves. It depends, and they sprinkle it over coffee, and it happens to be really, really delicious.
I want to tell people that this book is not labeled kosher because anybody can use it, and it's adaptable. So where there might be something where you're using taken or whatever your fake bacon is, anybody can substitute real bacon for. So it's not a kosher cookbook in that sense. And you have a lot of Asian inspiration in there. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of inspiration from all over. It's the food I like to eat, so it's the food I like to cook, you know. There's a lot of Moroccan influence because obviously, you know, that's huge for me. There's a lot of like very typical Jewish Ashkenazi um, flavor profile foods, meaning there's some sweet chicken, some sweet meats, things like that. And then yeah, there's also dumplings, and there's also scallion pancakes with a crab salad and things like that, because I love those flavors, so it had to be included. There's Mexican influences, Thai influences. I've been very lucky in my life to travel all over the world, and really have gotten to go to the best markets and become familiar with their ingredients and their recipes and taste their foods. And that's really been incorporated into my life. So it had to be incorporated into the book.
There's a
It's not,
market that you go.
it's
Go
not
ahead.
all 100% authentic. The Moroccan recipes are authentic Moroccan recipes because those are my own. That's my culture. So the Asian and the Mexican and the Thai, I wouldn't say they're 100% authentic, but the flavor profile is enough, I think.
Tell us a little bit more about the market that you go to, because you're definitely farm to table.
Yes. Actually, that was the original name for the cookbook, Shook to Table. Shook is an open air market. There's shooks all over Middle Eastern countries, Morocco, most Arabic countries have a shook. A shook is an open air market with vendors that have stalls. Sometimes the markets are covered with like a tin roof, but it's still an open air market. Very little infrastructure, plumbing, electricity usually is hard to come by. And each vendor usually specializes in one thing. So there's multiple fish vendors, but they only sell fish. Chicken vendors that only sell chicken, beef vendors only beef, and then there's spice vendors, and then there's the herb vendor, and then there's the root vegetable vendor, and then there's the fruit vendor, and then there's the vendor that just sells grapes and watermelon during the summer, and during the winter sells seasonal fruit for the winter, you know. So it's really a wonderful place to shop because the shuk always gets first pick at all of the produce around that comes in around the country, because they do so much business. So it's literally like a farmer's market, but a permanent farmer's market all year long. And instead of buying directly from the farmer comes early in the morning, gives it to the vendor, and goes back to their farm, and then the vendor sells their stuff for them. So it's not maybe as cheap as a farmer's market, but actually the prices are very, very reasonable, and you get really your pick of the nicest produce, the best chicken, the best meat, the freshest fish. And I'm very fortunate to live, you know, walking distance, just a few minutes walking distance from the shuk.
I have a question that's come in. How much does a kosher lifestyle influence Israeli cuisine?
I would say pretty heavily. You know, I don't think that you find much shellfish or pork in Israeli cuisine, and you don't really find much mixing of dairy and meat in Israeli cuisine. So I would say pretty strongly.
Um, you grew up in America, in New York, and it was your husband and the marriage that took you to Israel. Am I correct?
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, I grew up coming to Israel. I had an aunt that moved to Israel when I was, you know, 5 or 6 years old, and we used to come every summer to visit them. And we absolutely loved it. And I spent 2 years here after high school, and I loved it. But then I got married, and my husband really wanted to come, and I said, okay. And we came, and we've been here ever since. We're actually coming up, you know, the day after Rosh Hashanah is our 13-year anniversary.
Let the number not generate anything bad.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Before I forget, just to tell people we're here with Danielle Renov of
Okay, close enough.
Peas, Love, and Carrots. She has over 67,000 followers on Instagram, and anything you want to know about her is on her site, which is Peas, Love, the letter N, Carrots, peaslove.carrots.com. So I don't want to, forget that. I want to know, is there a second book in the works?
No, no. One and done. One and done. It's my, it's, no, that's it. Only one.
How long did it take you to put it together? Was it 2 years?
I would say it was 4 years because it was since we started, it was really like in the making. But of active, like sit down, write the cookbook time, it was about 8 months.
And you have how many children?
7 children.
7. You had my share. um, I have a couple questions I usually ask at the end of the show, but before I do that, I want to tell people that you're involved with an event. I think it's the beginning of February, the end of
Yes,
January,
yes, yes.
with Beth DeFilla. It's a 4-part remote series with Adina Sussman, whose her new book has been doing well, Sababa Cookbook.
And she's
Laura
amazing.
Lev, the Spice King, and Chef, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Inat Adani.
Einat Admoni.
Adoni. Okay. So mark your calendars, and I'm sure you'll be hearing more from J More Living as well. So I have 2 typical questions that I ask. Hopefully, people are going to go out and buy your book. And what would you say was your culinary fail, your epic culinary fail?
Oh, my culinary fail. There are so many. I mean, I can't even, there's so many failures. Like, how do you get better if you're not willing to take chances and try, which of course leads to failure until you get it right. So I don't even know. There's so many.
There's not one that stands out in your mind. You're going, oi.
Okay, I would say there's 2 that stands out in my mind. One is chestnuts. I cannot roast a chestnut. They do not come out. They do not work. Do not send me chestnuts. Do not send me tips. Every single person on the planet has sent me their tips and tricks for roasting chestnuts. It does not work for me. I cannot cook a chestnut. Thank you very much. Okay. Next thing is rice, white rice. I can't do it. I can't do it. I need a rice cooker. I can't cook the rice. I need them perfect. I need them not touching. I need them fluffy. The ratios don't work. I've tried in the oven. I've tried on the stove. I've tried every single version of rice, every variety out there, every ratio out there. It just doesn't work for me. But I'm Moroccan. We eat couscous. So it's really not such a problem. I just don't like couscous.
It doesn't matter.
There's
You
no
know.
rice. There's no rice in our Moroccan home. Only couscous.
All right, so the rice can go with the bananas and the raisins, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. And then my final question is, what didn't I ask you that I should
Oh,
have?
I don't know. You're such a good interviewer. You covered so much. I don't know.
Well, is there anything that you want to tell people? I'll interject. You had suggestions for recipes out of your cookbook, Peas, Love, and Carrots, for the high holidays. What is going to be on your high holiday table?
Oh, I actually just finished up my cooking like 20 minutes before the show started. So the first night, we always have the Moroccan couscous with 7 vegetables. It's very, very traditional and symbolic. And I always serve that, and it's a favorite. Of course, the apples and honey mustard chicken, apple and honey. That's necessary. And then the apple honey mustard chicken, the Moroccan couscous with 7 vegetables, and the lamb shoulder. The lamb shoulder is so amazing. It gets cooked directly on your oven rack, and you put a sheet tray, a sheet pan of potatoes underneath, and all the lamb fat drips on the potatoes. And it is just, oh my gosh, beyond heavenly. So, so good. And then what else? What else from the book did I make? I made the pomegranate braised brisket. I made the bourbon short ribs, the no boil corned beef, because, it's a long holiday. So we got to get through it. And the best way is with good food.
Well, I can't wait to sort of dig into the book and try some of the spices. There's so many. I mean, I look at it and I fell over it because it's so beautiful and great
Thank you.
footnotes. So people, it's for everybody. It is not limited to Jewish people or people keeping kosher. It is a fabulous book. And when you sell 43,000 of them in 1 month, that is proof in the pudding, as they say.
Thank
I want to thank you for being here and putting up, and I promise you it'll look just fine. You know what I mean? Okay. Technology is a wonderful thing. And so I know you need to get going. Thank you so much for sharing your time. Lashana Tova, Danielle.
Thank you so much, Dara. Lashana Tova to you too. And thank you to all your viewers for having me and to you for having me. And I wish you all a wonderful, beautiful, sweet new year.
Thank you. Okay, everyone, we had some technical difficulties. We started a little late, but we're here, and I'm thrilled that Danielle can make it. She's so charming and so talented. So I'm going to hold it up again. I should get a commission. I am pushing this book. Let's get it up here. Peas, Love, and Carrots. It's gorgeous. I don't know. I'm going to open up to a page. There you go. Gorgeous, gorgeous book. Great footnotes. So let me say Happy New Year to all the Jewish people who watch the show. And that means Happy New Year to those people who are not Jewish and don't know what Lashana Tova means. It's the Jewish New Year. I am Dara Bunjon. You can find me at Jmore Living here on Facebook, jmoreliving.com, the YouTube channel. You can find me on social media at Dara Cooks. The email address, if you'd like to reach out to me, is food@jmoreliving.com. As always, we want you to stay safe. We want you to have a healthy new year. For those celebrating, wear your mask, and as always, may your plates remain full. Have a very good week.